Okay, welcome. I'm going to show you guys how to do some of these delta math problems. Incredibly important. So we're here with trig graph discovery level 1, and it says write the equation of the trigonometric graph. So they want us to write the equation of this dotted one. And you can see if I just start plugging stuff in here like a 4 and I hit try, kind of does something to it. So this is, they want you to kind of play around with it and see if we can figure it out. So I'm just going to look at this one down here, though, and analyze it. I see that the distance between the high point and the low point, okay, the distance between the high right here, right, and the low is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, which means the midline is halfway in between. So the midline is at -3. So right away, I know that the midline over here is at -3. I also see that it is shaped like a regular cosine function, right? Shaped like a regular cosine function. So that's good that the cosine is there. And it has a period of 2 pi. How do I know that? Well, let's see. We start here and we go down, we go down, we go down, back up, back up, back up, and then we get back to the same place. And how long did it take us to get? It took us 2 pi. Remember, pi is like 3, so 2 pi is about like 6, right? So it took us about 6 units to get back. So the period equals 2 pi. We know that BP equals 2 pi. So 2 pi times P, times B equals 2 pi. Divide both sides by 2 pi. And we get the frequency is 1. Well, for all these, you just need the C value, which is -3. You need the amplitude. Let's see, the amplitude is the distance from the midline up. So the amplitude is 2. So that's going to go here. And the frequency is just going to be 1. Okay, let me clear all of my drawings. Hit try. And lo and behold, it worked. So my graph is correct. I'm going to hit submit. Okay, new problem. So we want this black one to look like the dotted one. Let's see, the midline, the highest point is 2. The lowest point is -2, which means the midline is in between, right? And you can find the average if you want. 2 plus -2 over 2 is 0 over 2. So the midline is 0. So this is going to be 0. We stick with what we've been working with before. We know we have to use cab, right? And the period's down there too. So we have the C, y equals 0. The amplitude, it goes up to 2. It goes from the midline, it goes up 2. So the amplitude is going to be 2. So I'm going to put the amplitude right here. Okay, let's try it out. Actually, no, let's look at the frequency first. We don't know the frequency, but we do know the period, or we can figure it out at least. Let's take a look at where the period is. So we start here, and again, 2 pi cycles. So the period is going to be 2 pi, which means that the frequency is 1, right? Again, you have BP equals 2 pi. We know that P is 2 pi. So B times 2 pi equals 2 pi. What times 2 pi equals 2 pi? Well, 1. So plug in a 1 here. hit try, and we're good. We'll hit submit, and we got it right. Let's do a new problem. Try to find one a little more. This one seems challenging enough. Okay. First off, it's a sine function. They tell you it's a sine function, but I know it's a sine function because it starts at the midline. It's shifted down. It's stretched out. Okay. So the amplitude is larger, and we'll deal with the frequency in a bit. So we've got C, A, B, P. The midline, just from inspection, we go from 0 to -4. So halfway between 0 and -4 is -2. So I'm going to substitute a -2 in for this. Okay. The amplitude, not that difficult. Take a look at it. We've got this distance. That's 1, that's 2. So the amplitude is +2. The period, how long it takes to complete one cycle. Let's see, we start here. We go up, down, and then back up. Okay, this is one cycle. It's like if the sun went up and then down and then back up again. Well, again, not too exciting. It's 2 pi again, which means BP equals 2 pi. B times 2 pi equals 2 pi divided by 2 pi, right? I know this is getting redundant, but B equals 1. Sometimes it's more interesting. So we'll put in 2 here, we'll put in a 1 here. Let me hit try. And there you go. Let's look at some more difficult ones. We'll go back. Trig graph discovery level 3. Okay, level 3. Let's do a new one. Okay, so this is a sine function because it starts at 0, the black line. We can see we got to squish this thing in, and we got to make it higher. And it doesn't look like we need to shift it up or down at all. So it still looks like the midline of the dotted line is 0. So I'm going to leave that. Right, the highest point is 3, the lowest point is 3. That means the middle point is 0. The amplitude of this thing from the midline goes up 3, or it goes down 3. So the amplitude is 3. Let's try this. Okay, good. So at least we've got that. Now let's find the period of this. Go to draw. Let's see. Looking at the dotted one now. We go up, then down, and then up, and that is one cycle. How long did that one cycle take? It took 2 pi over 3 units. Pi is 6, 2 pi over 5 units. So pi is 3, so 3 times 2, 6, so about 6 over 5 units. So we know that P equals 2 pi over 5. We also know B times P equals 2 pi. Substitute in P, you get B times 2 pi over 5 equals 2 pi. I'll give it a little more space. So equals 2 pi. Okay, in order to undo this, we multiply by the reciprocal, which is 5 over 2 pi. That means that the 2's cancel, 5's divide to 1, pi's divide to 1. Over here, same thing, 5 over 2 pi. Well, the 2's divide to 1, these divide to 1. So you have b in this situation, the frequency is 5. Substitute in a 5 here. And this should hopefully squish it closer. And we got it. Nailed it. Okay, I'm going to do one more, see if I can find a really tough one. This one looks boring. Oh, this one looks interesting. Okay. So start like we always do. We need C, A, B, P. If you have all of these things, you can graph it. Let's see. The midline is this. Right, my highest point is -2, my lowest point is -4, so the point between there is 3. So I'm going to leave that. My amplitude is going to be this distance. So my amplitude is 1, nothing crazy there. This is where it gets a little different. I see that in order for this to repeat, I'm going to go down, up, and then down. Right? And what I mean by repeat is if I graph this in a different color, I think you'll see that this is just a, let's try better. Right? The blue versus this magenta, it's just the same thing repeated. It's like, again, the sun goes down, comes back up, goes down. And then again, it goes down, comes back up, comes back down. So this distance is the period. So in this situation, the period is a number that doesn't have pi in it, and that's okay. We have BP equals 2 pi. B we don't know. P is 8 equals 2 pi. Divide both sides by B. And we get B equals 2 pi over 8. We can simplify 2 over 8 to 1/4. So pi over 4. I'll substitute in my C, +3. My A is just 1. And my B value is pi, I click this, divided by 4. Let me erase this stuff. Let's see if I got it right, hopefully. Now I know something's going to go wrong, and see if you guys can pick it up, right? Okay, so not +3, -3. That's not the only thing. You try. That doesn't seem to make sense. But in the earlier video, the first slide, I had shown you guys the basic shapes of the sine function and the cosine function. And for the sine function, we had this midline. And it went up and then down. And this was for a positive sine function. But if you had a negative sine function, it's going to go down and then up. And that's exactly what this one is doing. It's going down first, right, the dotted one, and then up. So all we have to do is make this a negative. Hit try, and it flips it. Okay? If you have any questions, see me in the live virtual office webinar that we'll be hosting later today. Make sure you check Google Classroom.